Let's look at some things about Assistant Professor Dr. Yavor Shopov. Here you see, on the screen, his photo, as he explains something important in a lecture. As well as to the right, sample of his LinkedIn profile, as well as an interesting sample from his biography below. We can see that it is related to the University of Sofia, Clement Oridsky, and to space, research. But in his biography, he has his main activities and responsibilities as such. Official duties. Research in the field of heliophysics, solar and Earth relations, solar, modulation of the paleoclimate, cosmogenic and stable isotopes, the construction of new equipment for such studies, and part of the training of graduates, and even after they became doctors. But what you need to know is that the Dr. Yavor Shopov has great merit not only in astronomy, physics, university teaching, but also in Bulgarian history. But let's look at his biography briefly. This is a small part of his summary, or the doctor's biography. As mentioned, astronomy and physics and space, but we also see unmanned probes, as well as studies related to finding caves on the Moon and Mars. In fact, this is very important because the radiation of these planets and satellites is very high, and only in caves can be people living protected from this radiation, and who will help us if not the data and developments of Assistant Professor Dr. Shopov. Here's a moment to bow to the incredible scientist who will help us conquer new worlds, of course, Dr. Shopov. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. We also see investigated caves and small satellites. Definitely a lot of things were in his sight. That's not all. You will now be introduced Dr. Yavor Shopov. Unfortunately, the doctor is no longer among us after an incident with a car during the year 2022. Therefore, it is soon recognition and remember his activity, but also to promote his discoveries because they turn out to be unknown. And as you see, some of them are very significant for all Bulgarians, the world. This is what the doctor's resume looks like. The so-called biography. These are 35 pages and each row has a small letters. I barely collected reduced pages to 12%. And twice. So, they are in front of you. Here it is. The first 2 pages of the biography. We have already mentioned the Faculty of Physics of Sofia University, as well as activities such as astrophysics and star astronomy, as well as physics-chemistry and many others. What we will note, and will serve us for another video, is the information about the Sun, solar physics or geophysics, and geomagnetism. Others. He has started work since 1985, and here are the things we will get acquainted with now, numbered 1 to 6. Number 1 is a study of solar activity on the views or the speech of the speech. 2 is the influence of the Sun, melting of the glaciers. And 3 is very interesting about the flood of Noah, and it is clearly an asteroid who has fallen into the Sun and challenged it. 4 is again for the flood, but the doctor theorizes that the Bulgarians have migrated because of him. 5 is related to speleology, the science of caves, and the study is related to solar activity, geomagnetism, the end of viewers and melting of glaciers. 6 again with the Sun, and an earthquake that was caused, which caused the collapse of the barrier, and pouring water from Mediterranean to the Black Sea. These are very important because the next video will use them for something extraordinary. So subscribe. A little more about the professor of the university page. Of course, now the topic will be to present that great and exceptional, unusual, non-orthodox Bulgarian and scientist he was. How much he has achieved is something that is difficult to show, even if the channel is dedicated only to him, which actually deserves it. And at our time, although there are alarmists, they are not as amazing as much as Dr. Yavor Shopov. Unfortunately, I did not know him in life. Otherwise, I would squeeze his hand and thank him from the bottom of my heart for the work and love of science in Bulgaria, which he did. Here is a page of Sofia University, St. Clement Oridsky. I would like to point out that this university was made with the money and activities of the brothers Hristo and Evloja Georgievi, but they themselves were educated thanks to another doctor, namely Dr. Peter Baron, who was just as great and important but at other time. Every time has his heroes, enlighteners that give us light, so that we can continue to the path of success and improve the future. And everything we can do, we have to do it like our predecessors and heroes. This is the page of a database of scientific activity of Sofia University, St. Clement Oritsky. On it, we see a huge list of scientific contributions of Assistant Professor Dr. Yavor Shopov. As you can see, it doesn't start with something impressive, but with exhibitions of photographs. But wait, we have the interesting things and then some about history. It will blow your mind. Just watch and subscribe, give your thumb up and send to friends. We were just thinking that it was quite aimed at physics and astronomy, and we see for our surprise, in addition to comets and caves and spillage, but also environmental protection against disasters and crashes, a way to remotely find underground cavities with the thermal camera, aerial jet engine, Earth's temperature, laser scanning for caves, apparently many more. This is an interesting study by the doctor about Bulgarians and the territory of Iran. And together with Dr. Senkov, Yalimov, Azidi, and Professor Dimitrov, we go to page 7, and we see that the doctor has found Bulgarian words in Iran, such as Shuman or Shuman, Kuti, Tarkan. But we see something interesting, and this is Musala. Also what it means in Iran's language, namely Farsi, and that is, that Musala means split. Very interesting. Before the other slide has passed, it should be noted that this is not even a little but very small of the document. There are many words and many discoveries in it, and we will focus on it and others in another video. This is Musala Peak. We can see the top really looks split into two, just as the meaning of the word is. Apparently, the word is purely Bulgarian, and has nothing to do with the Turks. And their Allah, apparently that was confusion with the Turkish language, just coincidence. And here the doctor surprises us with the meaning of the word Dulat. It means a government. We think it is only the name Dulo of the ruler's family. And apparently Dulo, according to the Persians, means a hereditary member of the government, which of course was tzar. But for that word later. And although it is not emphasized, the doctor explains to us in the following lines that Guti and Kui are the same word, because in the language and script of the Akkadians, used for the go and ku, the same sign in writing kuti. So, in reality, it may have been just a Guti, and there were no Guti, but someone decided it was better Guti, and not to tell us about this small, but obviously important detail. There will be another video for the toponyms of map, Dalt Pop. And let's see the historical notes now. The doctor mentions us that Herodotus writes about the UTI, which is clearly a reference to the Utiguri, which, as we know, are next to the Quiguri, died. From the Russian history book Universal History About the World, the Kuti lived on the Iranian plateau and Mount Zagros in the 4th and 3rd millennium before Christ. Also, the excavations of Pliska and Madara are temples as they are similar to the Zoroastrian ones. And the Bulgarian names and rituals are related to the Zoroastrian during the pagan period. The doctor has also found many toponyms, and one of those is Madara, which we will see on in another video. We were convinced of a serious noble vein in the document after learning about Musala, that it was a purely Bulgarian word. But now we see more. It is platinum. And what is the Kuti or Utiguri were 3,900 years ago, not only on the territory of Iran, but there are also archaeological data on this. And in 2478, the word or title of tzar appeared, which was recorded as a char. And this is the discovery of the doctor. Of course I couldn't know before I made the video about this title, and it turned out that I found a little later for Nebuchadnezzar. Watch the video. Origin and meaning of Tsar, King, Knyaz, Knyaz, Kanasubigi, Konig, Koningas, etc. Thanks, doctor. And we also see again from our history that after the ruling of Sumer and Akkad, the Sumerians attack and push the Kuti out of the river in the mountain of Zagros. Musala is the highest peak on the Balkans, and how we know the meaning, thanks to the Dr. Shopov. The title Tsar is the second Bulgarian title. For both of them, just watch the mentioned video clip in the channel. On page 22, we see the first Martinitsa history. Oh, that's exactly the Martinitsa. The doctor again amazed us. Of course, it is a little difficult to see, but in a statue of King Shapur the Great in the Shapur cave, we have a Martinitsa who was part of the statue. Shapur the Great carried his Martinitsa on the belt, and on the left is an enlarged image. This cave is located 1 kilometer high above the capital of the Sassanid Empire, named Bispur. The doctor explains to us how huge the statue is, namely that the missing broken elbow on the right is a whole 1.5 meters. This tells us that the statue is huge, maybe 4 or 6 meters. The Sassanid Empire was later after the Sumerian and Akkadian countries, but it was shortly after Christ. According to Wikipedia, the tzar ruled 240 to 270 AD. Religion is Zoroastrianism, but apparently the Martinitsa has something in common, or it has not been a problem. There were 2 other tsars with that name, and it was no accident that he was great. Martinitsa is a specific for Bulgarians wearable made from red and white threads, and it is a sort of wearable worn for the good health and fertility. It is the important part of Bulgarian tradition, and here the doctor explains to us more interesting data. Sindhi or the Hindi we knows are Thracians, and they have brought the Buddhist elements to our territory. This is stunning, because now, this is the name from which India comes, with the first letter being lost. So, according to the doctor, the Sindhi was later spelled as Hindi, and they created the Vedic culture, but of course it may not be true, because we know that Bacchus or Dionysus created India before 6000 before Christ. But it proves that we have a connection. Another, very important, is that Madar means a sanctuary of Persian, and Badak comes from swamp or marshlands. The peak jungle in Piran is a Bulgarian name, not Turkish, with which it criticizes the revival process. Madar is an important monument named Madara Horseman. It is on all Bulgarian coins, and Batak is a Bulgarian city, also known with a massacre done by the Ottomans and great bravery of the people, all of which lost them lives in a church. Now we see more surprises from the doctor. It's just not true. Well, he has found a lot of the story we don't know, namely before Christ. And we see that 1696 the Babylonians conquered Sumer and the Kudi. And 529 before Christ, the Kudi are defeated by these Babylonians under the rule of the Tsar Cyrus. The creation of the Persian Empire is also the creation of the Persian Empire. Not only did we create the Sumerian first cities along the upper reaches of the rivers, but also Persia. We were an important factor. From then until the 4th century, the Kuti were part of the Persian Empire. And then the 1st and 2nd centuries are from the Kushan Empire, and we even rule it. It has decayed as the Sassanid is, the western one. But we also see a group. Maybe that's why we have Tsarkram. The doctor claims that many archaeological and historical studies are needed. We have been there for 25 centuries. We see many things that the doctor understands lead to fantastic results. Subscribe and like the video to have many more. Share. It is important to note that the doctor, even with genetic analysis not only of the current but also of the ancient Bulgarians, and proves incredible things. We can really only be proud of him. A great hero of what? The new time needs a monument of Dr. Yavor Shopov.